Hey guys, Ben here and welcome back to another video. Today we're talking all about DC, Superman, Batman and their copyrights because we got some major breaking news in regards to that. So if you do go on to enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future DCTV videos later this year. But before we get into today's main topic, I'm going to mention this once again. We are running a raffle for a DC mystery box. It's going to be full of DVDs, pop figures and different collectibles for whoever wins the raffle. Full details in the description below. Big shout out to all of you guys who support the channel. This is for you guys. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into today's main topic. This is coming from Variety. The title of the article is "When Superman and Batman copyrights expire in a decade, will it be kryptonite for DC?" So let me briefly sum up what this article is all about and what we're going to talk about in today's video. So this is all about the copyright to certain DC characters. And that is because all properties, all characters, all creations have an owner who basically has control of certain characters and different stories. And so for Superman, for Batman, for all DC characters, it's Warner Brothers that owns the rights as of right now, and they've owned the rights for a very, very long time. But as with Mickey Mouse, as with Winnie the Pooh, you know, you've seen horror films and different interpretations since their copyright actually lifted. So Disney doesn't have full control of, say, Mickey Mouse. Or recently you've seen lots of Dracula films. That's because Universal isn't the sole owner of the copyright. But basically there is different caveats to what can happen, but it is a big deal. So we're going to talk about it in regards to DC and specifically Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman and some of the major characters that have been around for a very, very long time. And so this is how the article goes. So a sad fact of Hollywood is that while superheroes never truly die, all copyrights do. On January the 1st, Disney lost control of Steamboat Willie, and within 24 hours, 2 horror comedies starring Mickey Mouse were announced not by Disney, by completely different people. So that means, say, you could make a Mickey Mouse film right now, you can make it a horror film, you can make it a musical, you can do whatever you want with the character, as long as you don't break the certain rules about, you know, certain things that Disney still hold. And so the DC characters are the next major explorations looming on the horizon. Superman and Lois Lane will enter the public domain in 2034, so that's in 10 years from now, followed by Batman in 2035, so 1 year after Superman and Lois. And then the following year, the Joker will be in the public domain in 2036, and then the year after, Wonder Woman in 2037, and I believe that's because it would have been 100 years since the copyright was first claimed. So obviously those characters have been around for a very long time, since the 30s. So while we have, you know, 10 plus years for a lot of these different characters, that is an insane prospect. Like, we could in 10 years be getting DC projects from various companies and various different unaffiliated studios that aren't fully in with Warner Brothers. Basically, the article is going to explain how different production companies can create new projects around, say, Batman or Joker, and they can make it completely different, but there is certain rules that they have to follow. So this is just huge. Like, you can see many kind of spin-offs and different interpretations of Superman that could happen in the next 10 years. Like, they will be planned before then, and maybe those films will get filmed instantly afterwards because people are going to want to cash in on the fact that they are now in the public domain in 10 plus years and anyone can grab their hands. Like, I could make a Superman film and I could release it to you guys and we can make it together and that would be fine, but there is certain rules, like I said, but we're going to get into that in a minute. So Chris Sims, a comic book author and Batman expert, expects a flood of unauthorized Batman comics to hit the stands as soon as the copyright expires. He says there's going to be 100 of them. They're going to have them ready to go. Movie producers will also be able to make their own versions, much as they already do with public domain characters like Dracula and Robin Hood, though in the beginning they will have to stick with the original versions of the characters. And so you get Batman, but you don't get Robin. You get Superman, but you don't get Kryptonite. So there is different bits of the stories that are still claimed by the owners, by Warner Brothers in the case of DC. So you wouldn't get Robin, but you would get Batman. You wouldn't get Kryptonite, which is an important part of Superman, but you would get Superman. So the initial Superman could only leap, not fly, so you wouldn't be able to have your Superman flying. He would only be able to like leap across buildings. And so those characteristics are going to fall into the public domain one by one, but they're not necessarily going to happen straight away when the characters become available. So DC has been preparing for this for years. At a press event in 2023, CEO of DC Studios, James Gunn, noted that the next Superman film will introduce characters from The Authority, a comic series that launched in 1999, in part because Superman copyright is about to expire. So The Authority is a good example of DC being smart and making certain projects, because The Authority's copyright is probably going to expire in 2099, which is insane to say, but they are relatively new characters, and so that's why it's always good to have innovation, because studios like Warner Brothers and DC know that, you know, one day the copyright is not going to be fully theirs, and they're going to have, you know, a really strong back catalog and introduce other characters to make sure that those are, you know, as popular or kind of similar in terms of popularity, so they can kind of bank on those rather than, you know, the million Superman and Batman and Joker projects that could come out in the next 10 years. So Jay Cogan, DC's Deputy General Counsel, laid out a strategy to protect characters that fall into the public domain back in 2001 in an article. So they've been preparing for this for a long time. So since only the older versions lose protections, he urged keep them fresh and up to date. So if you see the different progressions in Superman and the character, let's say, you know, he could only leap at first. Well, they introduced flying at one point, and so that's not going to be available straight away. And there is different bits of the story. Maybe they introduced a very important character later on. Certain villains didn't show up, so they're not going to be available. So at first, it's going to be very slim pickings apart from the main character itself. And so this is another quote: by gradually changing the literary and visual characteristics of a character over time, a character owner can keep whatever the then current image of the character is as the de facto standard in the public consciousness. So I like this because he is basically saying, okay, let's look at Man of Steel, let's look at Superman, Lois. Those are the modern iterations of Superman. Or if you look at the Batman or the Dark Knight, those are the modern iterations of Batman. So if you look at what the public sees as Batman or Superman, they don't see those original characters with the goofy outfits. They see the modernized versions as the real versions of the character, and so that basically means they can stay distinct and different from those other versions that will inevitably be made by different studios. And same in the comics, they could basically just go back to that original Superman design or that original Batman design, or they'll have to make changes for themselves that are different enough from any of the recent changes to the character and maybe the costume and certain things that they introduced. So basically it's going to be a bit of a challenge. So the company has done a good job of updating Superman. An IP lawyer said that the public's perception of the contemporary Superman is what it is, so it's distinctive. That gives them a lot of protection. And another tactic is maintain a high level of quality control. So the public should be conditioned to view any works from unrelated parties featuring a trademark owner's characters as second-rate knockoffs. So basically what he's saying is, if DC keep up the standard in TV and film, and they keep up, okay, this is what you expect from a Superman film, this is what you expect from a Batman TV show or whatever they're making. If the knockoff not made by Warner Brothers isn't as good, people will hopefully shy away from that. That's what they are hoping by making these changes and modernizing the characters. He also suggested that trademarks could be used to block the use of a character's name, image and slogan even after the copyright expires, but trademark is not a cloak of immunity, argues the director of Duke Center for the Study of Public Domain. They say that only prevents uses that are likely to cause consumer confusion about source or sponsorship. In other words, the characters' names should be fair game, so people can use Superman, people can use Joker, people can use Wonder Woman when the time comes, so long as it's clear that the depiction is not coming from DC itself. They can't have the label DC's Batman or DC's new Wonder Woman. That's not going to be possible. They will get sued for that. So you could still create a Superman horror movie or a Batman horror movie. You just need to be careful about how you advertise it and how you use images of Superman in the branding sense. And DC has done a careful job of tying the characters to itself by trademarking the terms, and I think this is very, very smart. Man of Steel, trademarking the term Cape Crusader for Batman, as well as Superman's S and Batman's logos. So if you see a Superman or a Batman film in 2034 or 2035, you're not going to see Superman's S on there because they will get sued if they use it, or you won't see Batman's logo or any kind of variation of that. It has to be something different. So they both have a very strong mark, and DC has been very smart about it. So you can expect all of these spin-offs to come eventually by non-Warner Brothers related film studios or comic book companies, because the characters are going to be up for the taking. But they've done, their due diligence to make it as hard as possible for there to be like proper good knockoffs. So I do look forward to this in 10 years plus time for these certain characters. Obviously there's more DC characters that were made back then that will go to the public domain, but these are the important, biggest figures. So what do you guys think of this? Let me know down in the comments below, because I would be very curious when this comes in 10 years time. I'm for sure going to be tuning in. Maybe I'll even make a Batman film myself or a Superman film. It's a very interesting and exciting concept, the idea that these huge characters can just be up for the taking, but with all the restrictions, it all comes down to the execution and how well it actually comes across. So this is going to be huge when it actually comes out. But for now, thank you guys so much for watching. That pretty much does it for this video. Please be sure to leave a like and a comment. It would really help this video get out there. Also subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos. But for now, remember to enter the raffle by following the details in the description below. But for now, you can click on the top right corner of the screen to watch my latest video, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.
I see